welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I'll be completing my Skate Canada 2024 coverage with the men's event. For starters, let's start off with Roman Sadovsky, who unfortunately had to withdraw from the competition. He did compete in the short program, landed a quad salchow, popped the triple axel to a single axel, and then did a triplets only without a combo. So the program itself was very good, but very difficult to overcome two catastrophic mistakes. He ended up in 12th after the short program, which was last place. So he withdrew from the competition on Sunday morning. And so on Monday, I don't know if it was a statement or if it was an interview with Mike Slipchuk, who is Skate Canada's high performance director. And this is what he had to say about Roman's withdrawal. He tweaked his back on Monday before getting here. It's nothing major long term, but he wasn't able to rotate. That's why you saw the first 3 days he didn't jump here on practice. He did no jumps. He got treatment while he was here. The day of the short was the first day he jumped. It wasn't 100%, but there was some discomfort. After practice Sunday morning didn't go well, Sadovsky and his coach made the difficult call to withdraw. They made the decision in his best interest. He was disappointed because he's had a good season. He was trained and ready. This morning he came out and did stuff, but it's just not where he wants to be. It's not anything we see long term. We saw improvement this week, but it's better to get him healthy because we have him slated to go to Tallinn in 2 weeks. So we'd like him to be healthy to get out and get that experience there. So I know a lot of people were speculating that maybe he withdrew because he'd had a bad comp. Definitely there were practice reports that he did not do any jumps the first day of practice. And so now we know what was going on there. He's got a back injury and hopefully it doesn't keep him down too long, but he was unable to complete the competition here at Skate Canada. And we wish him well. Before I get into the general breakdown of every competitor, I wanted to have a general conversation about PCFs for the men, because I actually meant to talk about this some last week during Skate America because some people were frustrated about not just Ilia's marks, but Dennis's marks. And feeling like he was underscored, which I would agree. And then coming out of this week, there were lots of different people talking about the component marks for Ilia, for Jason, for Junhwan. And so I made a little chart here. If you're on YouTube, you can see the chart. If you're listening in your vehicle or while you're vacuuming in a podcatcher, you don't have the chart in front of you. But basically, I broke down the top 6 here and what the PCS was that they got in the short program and the long program. And then I also took the top 6 from Skate Canada 3 years ago, much like I did in the ladies event, talking about specifically their Alyssa Liu's marks and how they were compared to the skaters that were at that competition versus her marks at this Skate Canada. So I kind of wanted to do the same thing here so people would get a little bit of context as to how Ilia is marked versus how Nathan Chin, who won Skate Canada this time 3 years ago, was also marked. So here, Ilia got the highest components in both the short and in the free skate. Last week in Skate America, he was second to Kevin Amos, who won the PCS in both programs there. Here, you would think coming in that would probably have gone to Jason. Jason did not have good programs here technically, as I'll get into when I get into the actual program breakdowns. And yes, that affects your components to an extent, but how much should it affect your components has always been a great debate. And a lot of people felt as though someone like Junhwan Cha was very low in his PCS components compared to what they felt like Ilia was getting. So if you go back and look at what Junhwan got in his best season, which was the 2022-23 season, went back and looked at his world's marks, which again, World's marks are going to be higher than typically what you're going to see in the Grand Prix, just because marks tend to increase as the season goes on. Marks also tend to increase as the skater has more success. But Junhwan at that event got 44 points in the short program and 90 points in his free skate. Here, for two clean skates, he got 40.96 in the short and 83.95 in the long program, which is quite a departure from what we saw from him at Worlds. Now, again, Worlds is going to be typically the highest scoring competition. So if we were to look back at the Grand Prix leading up to the Worlds in that season, go back to Skate America 2022, 2 years ago, earlier in the season, first Grand Prix of the season. He got a 44 in his program components in the short program, and he got an 87 in his component marks in the free skate, en route to getting a bronze medal, which is the same placement that he got here. So the question is, has he regressed in his skating skills? What is the difference this season versus that season? The only thing that I could come up with is that he wasn't very consistent last season, and he's somehow being penalized for that, which of course is not fair. And Ilia is getting rewarded for the fact that he is the reigning world champion, and he's had a very successful 2 years, basically. Is that fair? Of course it's not fair. Has Ilia improved? Of course he's improved. I think he's improved. Ilia knows he's improved. I mentioned on I think one of the Challenger episodes, maybe the Budapest Trophy, when I was talking about going into Skate America, I asked Ilia about that in our pre-Skate America press call, about the fact that his components have improved greatly. At that 2023 Worlds, Ilia was 10th in components in the short program and 11th in components in the free skate, compared to the Junhwans and Shoma and Kevin, all of these other skaters that were far superior to him. He has definitely closed the gap. I think the difficulty is, has he completely closed the gap and passed these other competitors that he used to be behind, or is he just being extra rewarded? And we see that so much. We see it really in all four disciplines to an extent. We see it with your more successful skaters more so than your skaters who still have really beautiful components but don't have the technicality or don't have the consistency. A lot of times people want a separate judging panel to cover components. I don't think that's ever going to happen, just in terms of the cost to add more judges to the panel. I don't see the ISU doing something like that. I don't know how you fix it. I don't have a fix. This isn't a conversation about problem solving at this point. That might be a great conversation to have at the end of the season, in the off season, to brainstorm about different ways that we can sort of fix this particular issue. But I did want to bring to light that I absolutely hear a lot of you with your concerns and complaints, and I think it's definitely warranted. Here in this competition, Jason was behind Ilia by just shy of 2 points in the short program, and then behind him by 4 points in the free skate, which again, like I say, I understand he was not as clean, but it's really hard for me to ever think that it's okay for Ilia to be behind Jason in program components, as much as he's improved. And as I'll get into when I talk about his programs, he's probably not even performing his components and his artistry to the best of his ability at this point either. So, interesting. The top 6 here in PCS was Ilia, Jason, Shun, Sota, Junhwan, and Luke Economides, which I totally agree with those being the top 6. There's a little break between Jason and Shun and Sota and Junhwan. Shun actually got better components than Sota and Junhwan in the short program, and Junhwan got better components than Shun and Sota in the free skate. Like, Junhwan actually got like 5 points better than Shun in the free skate, which I can definitely see that because Shun has improved greatly, but he still has some places that he can improve in the free skate. And then if you look back to 2021, I talked specifically about Nathan Chen, but Jason Brown was also at this competition, which interestingly enough, so was Roman Sadovsky and so was Sota Yamamoto. But there, Jason Brown actually had the highest components in the short program. That's the year he did that amazing Centerman program. But Nathan got higher components than him in the free skate. And so to compare Ilia to what Nathan got a 46 in the short program. So almost a point and a half better than what we see Ilia getting. He got 92.78 in the free skate, which is about 5 points more than what we've seen Ilia get here. And also about a point higher than what we saw Kevin get last week, which I think is, when you look at it in that context, it feels fair. But I think when you look at it in context of other skaters, like for instance, at that same competition, Jason Brown got 89. Keegan Messing got an 81.78 in his free skate, 43.69 in his short program. So just some things to sort of consider. I like sometimes, I'll tell you guys all the time, like, don't compare scores from Grand Prix to Grand Prix because there's always little changes here and there. But it's nice to have a little bit of context as to where the judges' heads are at. And I think for anybody to come out of this with a complaint, it's definitely probably Junhwan the most, because he's the one that I see the biggest difference between his components now and what they were 2 years ago. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the competitors. So the winner here was Ilia Malinin, going back to back. And he is officially our first person into the Grand Prix final with 2 wins. He automatically is now qualified for that. And we have 5 more competitors that will join him over the next 4 Grand Prix. He skated better here than he did at Skate America. He made some mistakes in both of his programs at Skate America. Here, the short program was really terrific. He ended up getting a time violation last week. So what they did this week was they sped up his music just a little bit to prevent him from getting a time violation. I feel like this is the program where he performs to a higher level. It is shorter. You have less jumping passes, and so there's more of an opportunity, I feel like, for him, whereas other competitors, I feel like the long program gives them a better opportunity to perform. But I feel like Ilia really performs this short program well, and I thought he was terrific here. In the free skate, this is supposed to be the last time that he is competing with this outfit for this program. He apparently is getting a new outfit that doesn't have puffy sleeves and doesn't have any fake blood on it. Interesting. So we'll be seeing that debuted at Grand Prix Final. Here he was really strong technically, with the exception of what was planned to be a quadruple loop. He did a triple loop instead. He may have changed his mind in the air, but other than that, he was really strong. He did not bring out all of his big gun technical elements, which is he doesn't need. We oftentimes don't see him pull out things like the quad axle until Grand Prix Final. Some of this super duper crazy stuff that we'll see him do, like quad lutz, triple axle kind of things, we may not see him do until Worlds. So here he did a triple lutz Euler, triple Salchow, and just a triple flip, triple axle here. Whereas last week, I think he did a quad Salchow, triple axle. In the end, he was not immune to calls. He did get a Q call on his quad flip. As far as the way that he performs, I feel like he's got good intensity at the beginning. Like, all the way through the quad lutz, I do think that you can see the effort there to try to connect to the music. But then there's this whole section in the middle of the program that after the what's intended to be a quad loop, that whole section, I just feel like he's kind of phoning it in. All the way through all of those final jumping passes that he does with the ones that I just mentioned, the Lutz Euler, triple Salchow, the triple flip, triple axle. You can see him just kind of really back to zoning in on the jumps again. And then once the step sequence comes in, he's like pretty much like at a 10 at that point. All the way through the choreo sequence, it's done really well. But I feel like he's at about a 6 in that middle section. And I would like to see him perform a little bit better. I understand that you can't be at a 10 for 4 minutes. but can you be at an 8 instead of a 6? So this was a quote that he said on Twitter that Claire Gaultier posted. I'm still not so comfortable skating on the ice under pressure. I feel like I'm only giving 60 to 70% of my actual capabilities. And he wants to find a way to be able to go full out on everything in competition. So, what we can sort of glean from this is that Ilia knows that he's not performing at his best. And I also think where we're at in the season, that's okay. You want to be peaking at Worlds in March. You don't want to peak in October. So he knows that there's room for this program to continue to grow. And I think that that's good awareness on his part. Moving on from Ilia, second place winner, Shun Sato won the silver medal here. His short program is to Ladies in Lavender. He is doing a quad lutz in his short program. Last year, he tried to do a quad flip, and a lot of times he would get an unclear edge call. So he had a much more consistent edge on his quad lutz, and so he's added that in there. He also did a quad toe, triple toe, and a nice, easy triple axel. So, I mean, he just came in, he wasn't messing around. And his presentation has improved so much over the last 2 seasons. If I could nitpick on a couple of things, I would like to see a better catch foot position on his camel spin. And I would still like to see him improve on his step sequences. Only a level 2 here in the short program. It's a place where he loses points easy. And he could also improve on that second mark if he could do better in those couple of areas. In the free skate, Shun has the quads to compete with the top men. He's got a flip, a lutz, a toe, and a salchow. And he did 4 quads in this program. But he's got to be more consistent technically because the second mark has been continuously what's held him back. It is something that he is working on, and we are seeing the fruits of that labor. But at times the technical elements will still let him down a little bit, and it just keeps him from being able to sort of inch his way up towards those top skaters. We're talking about Ilia, Adam, Yuma, even Cal, and you could throw good Kevin in there as well. So here he fell on his quad lutz first thing, and he also fell on his second triple axel in the program, which was crazy because he fell on it right after he had landed the triple axel in combination with the triple salchow, and then he went and landed on the other. He landed one quad toe in combination. Again, he gets to the solo quad toe, and he's got to put his hand down. So if he could ever skate these cleanly, it would be interesting to see what his ceiling is on his score. And again, are the judges willing to go a little bit more there in the components if he were to skate a little bit cleaner? He got a level 3 on his step sequence in the free skate. So an improvement over the short program, but still not yet at a level 4. I'd still like to see him get a little bit more energy in there. I would like to see more out of his choreo sequence. It feels a bit like a throwaway. Like he's got a decent spread eagle in there, but then kind of some half-hearted jumps. And the top men are all really utilizing that choreo sequence really well to get a few extra points, not just on that sequence, but I think it also helps with the overall composition of the program. The program, though, I really love. The music is beautiful, and we're starting to see more expression out of him. The mistakes definitely looked like it was perhaps going to cost him a podium placement, but he barely hung on to that silver medal. He was less than a point ahead of our third place competitor, who was Junhwan Cha of Korea. Very glad to see Junhwan back on podium at the Grand Prix. He had such a nice season 2 years ago, and unfortunately, injuries and just the craziness of what South Korea makes their skaters do constantly. You got to go to this ranking competition. You got to go to this domestic competition, and they're just like beaten up. So I'm glad to see him healthy and skating well. In the short program, quad salchow was beautiful. When he's on, him and Yuma really have the best quad sows in the biz. He's back to doing the triple lutz triple loop, which I co-sign heavily. He's so much cleaner when he does that over trying to do a quad toe. Trying to get those two quads in the short program just has not worked out for him at all. And he squeaked out that triple axel. In the free skate, he actually landed not just the quad out, but the quad toe, which I was very happy to see because the quad toe he's really been struggling on. And then at times when he's landed the quad toe, then he would struggle with the quad salchow. So to have both quads working here in this competition, I hope will be a really good confidence booster for him. He landed his triple lutz, but it was a little rough, even though it was clean, so he wasn't able to get the loop off in that, which created a potential jump math issue for him later in the program because he had another lutz planned. Instead, he improvised and did a triple flip there instead, so it didn't cause him any problems. He does his step sequence in the middle of the program, and if I have one nitpick for him, it's that I want him to connect to the music a little bit more in that. I can tell that the step sequence is very intricate, but I just want to see a little bit more performance out of it from him. Love the positions that he hits in his combo spin. I feel like he finally really gets into the program during the choreo sequence with his trademark Ina Bauer. Not a single mistake in this program. He was just off at the music at the end. This is the third time that I have seen this program at this point, and it's the most that I've liked it so far. I think if he can perform it just a little bit more in that step sequence in the middle, then it could sort of get to another level than where it's at right now. In fourth place was Sota Yamamoto of Japan. Short program was very strong for him. Such a subtle beginning with the music. He's got like silence in the music, like right before he does his quad toe, triple toe. It's very effective. Quad salchow was very good. Was not sure if he was going to land that triple axel or not. Very questionable in the air. Hit a little bit of a hesitation right before going into it. But he hits it and then he like strikes his pose like right after when I loved that. It was right on the music. He also has some places to improve. He just got a level 3 on his step sequence and on his camel spin. In the freak skate, very close to staying on the podium. He was third after the short program, but he got an undercall on his quad salchow, and that cost him about 3 points, which was the difference between him being fourth and being third. He also fell on his quad toe later in the program. The fall was less of an issue, but he under-rotated it. So the he got a full downgrade on that. So a full downgrade to a triple toe. That cost him about 3 or 4 points. And again, if he had fully rotated it but still failed, it would have been enough to get him back to hold on to that podium spot. The program starts off really slow and kind of measured, and then it kind of ramps up and ends quite dramatic. So I like the contrast there because it sort of appears as though he's going to do kind of a subtle program in his free skate like he does in the short program. Then he has that little bit of drama at the end to give it a little bit of difference. In fifth place here was Vladimir Litvintsev of Azerbaijan. So glad to see at least one new program. In his short program last season, he was doing The Lion King. It was a weird mashup. The costume was weird. The whole thing was just strange. So here, he's got a new short program to the Game of Thrones. Much more effective. His jumps were really strong. Quad toe, triple axel, triple flip, triple toe. So I was excited to see what he was going to bring in the long program. Unfortunately, it was the blame Nutcracker again. So my understanding is this is from the Nutcracker in the Four Realms. That's what he said last year. And I'm pretty sure this is the same exact Nutcracker program because it's the same mashup with the Nutcracker music plus Fallen, which is like a Andre Bocelli and his son singing. Beautiful song. It's what Alexa and Brandon used in their first season together for their free skate. Then in the middle, it's like got Christmas music. It's just weird. And it doesn't help that it's just void of pretty much any choreography. There's just tons of just stroking across the ice, along with the Russian flailing of the arms. And I get it. Why not? I mean, it worked for you, Evgeny Plushenko. I can understand why you think it might work for you too. This is exact example of like, why are you repeating this program? It wasn't good last season, not just choreographically, but in terms of showing any kind of level of skill. And then you're doing it again. Doesn't really invite the judges to reward you in that second mark department because you haven't shown any growth. If anything, it feels like regression to do the same poor choreography a second year in a row. Technically, though, started off really strong with two quads. He did fail on his second quad toe. So there was that, and that helped him kind of stay in the top five. It also helped that in general, this was kind of a poorly skated event. And so once we get past the top four, it was definitely a bit of a drop off. In sixth place was Gabriele Frangipani of Italy. He was 10th after the short, but fifth in the free to pull himself up to sixth. And he is just very much a boom or a bust skater. Like, he can go out like Nepola last year and just win the whole shebang, and then he can show up at a Grand Prix and end up 10th. You just never know what you're going to get with him. In his short program, had a fall in his quad toe, and that's really what put him back in the standings. Looks like he just like over-rotated it, honestly. In the free skate, did not start off well. He stepped out of his quad toe, and then he fell on his quad salchow, which pretty on brand for him. His quads are pretty inconsistent. Then he does a triple axel, triple toe in the second half. He didn't quite get the triple toe. I do really like his choreography. I think he could perform better in the beginning, and I feel like I say that a lot with a lot of the men, and probably in the middle too, for that matter. I do like it when he does perform and turn it on, and he's really enjoyable when his jumps are on. Just very kind of on and off, hot and cold this weekend. Seventh place was Alexa Rakic, and with Roman Sadovsky's withdrawal and Gogolev dropping like a stone in the standings, as Chris Haworth said, Alexa was the highest Canadian man here. Who had that on their bingo card, right? In his short program, he did good quad toe. He put his hand down on a triple axel. Looked like it just slowed down in the air. He was slow going into the triple flip, triple toe. I have no idea how he managed to get off the triple toe. He came out there in like this Baltic tunic, which I really liked. I thought he was going to skate to like Robin Hood or something and not a song going, I Want to Love You. And I was like, the costume doesn't match the music. I don't get it. It's slight nitpick. I love the costume. Just thought he was going to be skating to something else. In the free skate, started off with a really nice quad. He landed both of his triple axels. They were not confident, but he did make it. And I started to notice, I'm like, he's got some really nice choreography. I think his next step from where he is right now is to emote more in the face. I think he could use more height on his combos. The first jump is usually good, but the second jump just does not get very much air. And in comparison to last year, he was 12th here at this event last year. And so to end up 7th here, I think it's a phenomenal finish for him. He was a host pick, so he does not have another Grand Prix or another international assignment right now. He was 8th at Dennis 10 a couple weeks ago. He really needs some more opportunities because, perhaps he might be a Canadian man that could emerge as someone who could land jumps, which is what we're looking for right now with the Canadian men, just people that will stay upright. We're looking for vertical skaters, not horizontal. 8th place was Jason Brown, making his return back to the Grand Prix. And unfortunately for him, triple lutz and the triple axel were just not happening for him this weekend. In this short program, he is skating to Tarzan. Not his best skate, fell on the triple axel, and he stepped out of his triple lutz, triple toe combo, which is usually pretty money for him. The program has potential. I just don't think he's mastered it yet, but I kind of like the vision. There's a lot of elements in sort of the end of that program that I really like. Free skate is my favorite of the two. Beautiful program. Much like the short program, fell on the triple axel. He did another one right after, which very gutsy. He managed to stay on his feet on that one. Again, stepped out of a triple lutz, and then on his second triple lutz, later in the program, he just doubled and got a double lutz, double axel, double toe combo. But he was in really good spirits after the effect, and then he also tweeted out later that day that he was just so happy to be back on the Grand Prix. And frankly, Jason, we're so happy you're back too. And hopefully in his next Grand Prix will be a little bit more successful than this one. But it was great to see him out here. 9th place was Stephen Gogolev of Canada. And in a short program, actually went really well. He came out and did a clean quad salchow, triple flip, triple toe, which thank goodness he wasn't trying to do 2 quads in the short program. In fact, he didn't try to do 2 quads in the free skate either, which I think is a good strategy. I actually really like his suit. And like there's a change in the music later in the program, and like Hey Pachuco comes on from like The Mask. It's actually really fun, and I'm like, okay, go, like yeah, I'm enjoying this. Then the free skate comes, and honestly, it wasn't terrible, even though he fell from fifth to ninth. He started with a quad sow, which was good, and then he put both of his hands down on his triple lutz, and I'm like, why? And they ended up giving him a fall, unfortunately. He also had a hand down on a triple flip later in the program. He had two triple axel combos in here. The triple axel Euler triple Salchow was successful, and then a triple loop triple axel that was not successful. In fact, he had a very hard fall on that triple axel. But honestly, I just appreciated the attempt. Like, I've been saying on the podcast, like, can anybody else do one of these crazy Ilia combos and put a triple axel on the end of another jump? And he just put it out there. Now, what I might suggest is maybe flipping the two combos instead of doing the triple axel Euler triple sal early. Maybe do the triple loop triple axel early instead, because he also has some really nice choreography going into it, like this nice kind of spiral style knee slide going into it, which increases the difficulty, but it's already a very difficult combination, so it kind of makes me nervous. So I would love to see this again, especially done successfully or even in practice. I wonder what his hit rate on that actually is. But I didn't think the program was a total disaster. I have been pretty hard on him in the past, especially for his composition, because a lot of times it just looked like there was very lackadaisical, no real attempt to perform. And here I felt like it still wasn't great, but I can see effort this season that I wasn't seeing last season. And for me, that's a net positive. 10th place here was Mark Gordenitsky of Israel. He was 11th after the short program and 8th in the free to end up 10th overall. Short program was really well skated, turned out of his triple axel. That was the only issue there. In his free skate, started out with a bad lean on his triple axel and stepped out. And his next jump was another triple axel, and he nailed that one. The weird thing with this program is the final step sequence is to a rap. Like, it's music from a rapper called Black Prez. Never heard of him. But it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, what was that? Part of me kind of liked it because I was like, this is a side of Mark I wasn't expecting. I don't think I've ever seen before. But it was very random. But I'm not mad about, I feel like, was this pioneered by Nathan Chen, probably, like with the step sequence to rap? But I don't know. I kind of liked it. All right. In 11th place here was Luc Economides of France. His short program, really loved that he shows off the ability to spin in both directions. At some point, he opens his jacket, and I'm not sure that it really had the effect that he wanted. This was another like rap song. He did Kanye West last season for his short program. I think this one is more effective than last season's was, even though I didn't hate last season. It was so different. This season, it feels a little bit more, it doesn't feel as out of the box. Maybe part of it is just that Kanye is such a controversial rapper. And then this other person he's skating to in this short program, I don't know who that is. So if he has any baggage, I don't know about it. In the free skate, he is skating to Interstellar, which Roman Sadovsky is also. So we didn't get the dueling Interstellars at this competition. He had a hand down on his triple axel to start, and a similar issue later in the program, but he put both hands down there, and he didn't get a combo off on that second one. And so both of those errors really kind of drag the technical score of the program down because he doesn't do a quad, and so that's his highest scoring element, and both of them, unfortunately, were not well done. He did manage to get like a single toe off on his second Lutz, but you lose points if you get a single toe instead of a double toe, or a double toe instead of a triple toe, right? And because he didn't get all three of his combos off, again, it's lowering the base value, just kind of throwing points away in that. And it's also extra costly when you don't get a combo on a repeated jump. So his jump layout is really designed to maximize his combos in the second half, but then you're also jumping on tired legs, so it is a risk do really love his style. I completely agreed with the fact that he was in the top 6 in terms of program components, because both of his programs are choreographed very well and they're performed very well. Even with the technical mistakes that he makes, it doesn't really affect the quality of the program. And I love the end of this where it's just kind of like this tapping sound and he's just kind of miming to it. It's just kind of a nice, different kind of ending where a lot of times people end on like just this dramatic big piece of music like da-da. Okay, so that completes the men's event. So my Pamchenko award here, I think I'm going to give it to Junhwan, because even though, I mean, Ilia's short program was great, we haven't seen Junhwan skate 2 programs like this, I feel like, in quite some time. So Junhwan gets my Pamchenko award really for both programs, but especially for the free skate, which is really starting to grow on me. All right, next week, or just a few days from now at this point, is Grand Prix de France. And we have Luke going back-to-back this week, kind of like Ilia just did in these 2 weeks. So here's our roster. We've got Boying Jin of China, Alexander Solevko of Estonia, Luke Ekamedes, and Francois Petit, who we saw at Skate America, both from France here, along with Adam Seo Himfa, making his Grand Prix season debut, Nikolai Mimola of Italy, Kushiro Shimada and Kazuki Tomono from Japan, Mikhail Shadorov from Kazakhstan, Lucas Britschke from Switzerland, and Camden Polkanen and Andrew Torgashow of the US. So it's a pretty stacked Grand Prix once you get behind Adam, who is unquestionably coming in as the favorite. Everybody else don't exactly know what to expect. Lucas certainly stands out if he can be consistent. He hasn't started off the season super consistent, but it's a very interesting program. I think it's his short program or his free skate? One of them has this monologue on there, which is super interesting. I talked about, and maybe it was Shanghai Trophy, or could have been Budapest. Maybe it was Budapest. You got Alexander Solevko, who was silver medalist at Europeans last year, but who is oftentimes extremely inconsistent. He is another one that's skating to a tango this season. You never know what you're going to get from Nikolai Mimola. Another one, boom or bust, kind of like his teammate, Gabriel Frangipani. Mikhail Shadorov usually brings a ton of quads and oftentimes not a lot of choreography to go with it. So was he able to develop a little bit of that over the summer to improve there? And what are American boys going to show? Who knows? Like I say, the sweepstakes for that third American spot, was not impressed by the Maxim Naumov or Lucas Broussard at Skate America. So what can these two guys bring in? Both of these guys have been at Worlds in the last 2 seasons. Last year, that nod went to Camden. The year before that, that nod went to Andrew. So what can these guys show us? And what does Boyang look like? He's another one. You just never know what you're going to get on the day. He could throw a quad Lutz out there. He could land absolutely nothing. So this particular Grand Prix in the men, I think, has probably the most potential for a lot of minning, a lot of ordinals moving around. All right, so that completes the men's coverage as well as my coverage for Skate Canada. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed Skate Canada and you're looking forward to France. For those of you that might be listening on the other side of the world, now that comes to you and you can watch without having to get up at 2 a.m. and the rest of us are going to have to watch early in the morning to watch these things live, which is totally fine. That's just how it goes. You can find me on all the socials at iSkate Podcast. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and please make sure you subscribe to your podcatcher if you're listening that way. I hope you have a great rest of your week.